Most people will never be successful not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have potential, but because they refuse to take responsibility. It's that simple. They spend their whole lives pointing fingers, making excuses, blaming everything and everyone except themselves. They blame their parents for not being supportive. They blame the government for making life harder. They blame their teachers for not believing in them. They blame society for being unfair. They even blame their past for the way they are today. But the truth is this: as long as you're blaming someone else, you're giving away your power. You're literally saying, my life is not in my control. And the second you say that, you've already lost. Because you can't change something you don't own. Every single person who's ever turned their life around started with one decision, the decision to take complete, brutal responsibility for everything. Even the things that aren't your fault. That's the paradox. It's not about fault, it's about responsibility. Maybe your parents were toxic. Maybe you didn't grow up with money. Maybe life's been unfair to you. Okay, that's real, but now what? Are you going to let that define you for the next 10 years, or are you going to say, you know what had happened, but what I do next, that's on me? You see, blaming is easy. Blaming makes you feel good because it protects your ego, it lets you off the hook, it's comfortable. Responsibility, on the other hand, is heavy, it hurts your pride, it forces you to look in the mirror and admit, I'm the reason my life is the way it is. And that's hard for most people, because deep down they don't want to face the fact that their results or lack of them are a reflection of their choices. But here's the thing, the moment you take responsibility, you take control. Suddenly, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. You realize you're not just some character in the story, you're the author. You're the one holding the pen. Let me tell you something: when I was younger, I used to play that same blame game. I'd look around and think life wasn't fair. I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have connections. I didn't have opportunities. And then I realized nobody was coming to save me. No one was going to hand me success. I had two choices: keep crying about how unfair life was, or take ownership and do something about it. So I started taking responsibility for everything. If my business failed, it wasn't the client's fault. It wasn't the market. It was me. If I felt unproductive, it wasn't because I was tired or busy. It was because I lacked structure and discipline. If I wasn't growing fast enough, it wasn't because the algorithm didn't favor me. It was because I wasn't providing enough value. That level of ownership changes everything. It's uncomfortable at first. It's supposed to be. You'll catch yourself wanting to make excuses, to blame circumstances. But once you push through that, you'll start to notice something powerful. The more responsibility you take, the more control you gain, and with control comes confidence. When you stop blaming, you stop being a victim. And that's when you become dangerous, because nothing outside of you can control you anymore. The economy can crash, people can betray you, things can go wrong, but you'll still move forward because you've trained your mind to look inward for solutions instead of outward for excuses. And let me be real with you, life isn't fair, it never will be. Some people start with advantages you'll never have. Some people have better connections, better timing, better luck. But if you spend your life focusing on that, you'll stay stuck forever. Winners don't care about fairness. Winners care about outcomes. They take what they have, no matter how little, and they make it work. You might not control how your story began, but you have full control over how it ends. And that starts when you stop blaming your past and start owning your future. Most people think responsibility is a burden. It's not. It's freedom. Because once you take full ownership, no one can manipulate you anymore. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do. You just do it. That's why the people who are truly successful, the ones you look up to, they all have one thing in common: they take responsibility for everything. When something goes wrong, they don't complain, they adapt. When life hits them, they don't cry, they adjust. When they fail, they don't hide, they learn. That's how you grow. That's how you win. And I'll tell you something else: the world respects people who own their life. There's power in saying, yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I made that mistake, but I'm fixing it. Because the truth is, everyone fails. Everyone gets knocked down. The difference between those who stay down and those who rise is ownership. So stop blaming your boss. Stop blaming your parents. Stop blaming your friends, your upbringing, your lack of time, your lack of money. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is what you do with what you have right now. You want success? Then start owning your reality. Take responsibility for your habits, your results, your mindset. Because once you do that, once you truly own your life, you become unstoppable. At that point, there's nothing anyone can take from you. You stop reacting to life and you start creating it. That's the shift. That's when success becomes inevitable because it's no longer something you're chasing. It's something you're building brick by brick, decision by decision, through pure responsibility. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this. The day you stop blaming and start owning is the day your life changes forever. Everyone wants to talk about motivation. Everyone's obsessed with it. People wait around for motivation like it's some kind of magic pill that's going to change their life. I'll start when I feel ready. I'll work harder when I'm motivated. I'll be consistent when I'm inspired. You know what that really means? It means you're addicted to feeling good instead of doing what needs to be done. And that's why most people never win, because they keep waiting for a feeling instead of developing a system. Motivation is emotional. It's temporary, it's fragile, it disappears the second things get hard. You might wake up tomorrow fired up after watching a motivational video ready to conquer the world, but give it 2 days, and you'll be back scrolling through your phone, telling yourself I'll start on Monday. That's the problem with motivation, it's unreliable. It's not built to last. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care about your feelings. Discipline doesn't ask, do you feel like it today? Discipline just gets it done. You think I feel like working every day. You think I feel like waking up early, training, planning, showing up for my business, for my team, for myself. Of course not. I'm human. There are days I'm tired, days I'm drained, days I couldn't care less. But I still do it. Why? Because discipline is doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. The truth is, the gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with thousands of boring, repetitive, unsexy actions that no one will ever see. The grind that happens when the camera's off, the early mornings when no one's clapping for you, the late nights when your friends are out having fun and you're alone, still building. That's what success actually looks like, not some highlight reel of motivational speeches and aesthetic workspaces. Motivation is the spark, discipline is the fire, and most people never make it because they're addicted to sparks. They start something new, a business, a fitness goal, a new habit, and they're hyped for the first week. They feel amazing, they're telling everyone about it, they're convinced this time it's different. Then as soon as that excitement fades, they stop, because the moment it stops feeling good, they quit. If you want to win in life, you have to flip that mindset completely. You can't build your life around motivation, you have to build it around discipline. Discipline is structure, it's systems, it's habits, it's creating an environment that forces you to show up, even when you don't want to. It's removing options, it's telling yourself, I don't negotiate with my goals. When you're disciplined, your actions aren't tied to your emotions, they're tied to your standards. You don't rely on hype, you rely on habit, and when you reach that level, you become unstoppable. Let me give it to you straight, successful people aren't special. They're just consistent, they've trained themselves to act without emotion. They've built habits that work even when they don't feel like working. That's it. Think about an athlete, do you think they feel motivated every single day to train? No, but they show up anyway, because they understand that every rep, every practice, every boring session compounds. Discipline compounds, it builds momentum quietly until one day everyone else calls it talent. That's the secret. You're not missing motivation, you're missing consistency, and consistency only comes from discipline. If you rely on motivation, your life will always be a roller coaster, up one week, down the next. Productive one day, lazy the next. You'll never build momentum because momentum only lives where discipline exists. Discipline is doing it when you're tired, doing it when it's raining, doing it when no one's watching. Doing it when no one will ever thank you for it, because you understand that every small act of discipline is a vote for the person you're becoming. And here's the beautiful thing, once you've been disciplined long enough, something shifts inside you. You start to trust yourself. You stop doubting your word because you've proven to yourself over and over that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. That's real confidence, not standing in front of a mirror repeating affirmations, but building evidence of your own reliability. You stop chasing motivation because you don't need it anymore. You've built something stronger, identity. You are the type of person who gets things done. That's your baseline, that's your standard. And once you hit that point, your life becomes simple, not easy, but simple, because the decision's already made. You don't have to ask yourself, should I go to the gym, or should I work on my business today? You just do it. It's who you are now. The people who rely on motivation are always starting over. The people who rely on discipline are always leveling up. And I get it, discipline isn't sexy. It doesn't sell. People want shortcuts. They want hacks. They want to feel inspired. That's why motivational content gets millions of views, but discipline gets millions of results. Because discipline doesn't care about hype, it's quiet, consistent, and deadly effective. If you truly want to change your life, stop chasing feelings and start chasing habits. Build a structure so strong that even on your worst days, your standards carry you through. Because let's be honest, it's easy to be motivated when things are going your way. The real test is when they are not. When you're tired, when you're broke, when you're doubting yourself, that's when discipline matters most. That's when you prove to yourself that you're serious. That's when you separate yourself from everyone else who gave up the moment it got hard. So stop waiting for motivation to show up. It's not coming. Stop depending on inspiration to push you. You're not always going to feel inspired. But discipline will carry you through every storm, every obstacle, every setback. And one day, when people look at your results, they'll call you lucky, they'll call you gifted, but you'll know the truth. You'll know it wasn't luck or talent or motivation, it was discipline. It was all those days you did the work when no one was watching. It was the boring, consistent effort that no one clapped for. That's how you win. That's how you build a life that lasts. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Just do it every day, no matter what. Because when motivation dies, discipline keeps you alive. We live in a world that's louder than ever. Everyone's talking. Everyone's posting. Everyone's trying to tell you what success should look like. And because of that, most people are completely lost. They're chasing 10 different things at once, wondering why they're not making progress in any of them. You can't build anything great if your attention is split in 100 directions. That's the truth nobody wants to accept, because focusing on one thing requires patience. It requires saying no to almost everything else. And most people can't handle that. They want to do everything all at once, and they end up doing nothing well. Look around, everyone's in a constant state of distraction. They open TikTok for a quick scroll and lose an hour. They check their messages every 5 minutes. They start a business, then abandon it for a new one. They buy a course, watch 2 videos, and move on to something else. They're always chasing that next thing, the next dopamine hit, the next opportunity, the next hack. But that's not how success works. Success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less with more depth, more focus, more consistency. The problem is, most people don't have a focus problem, they have a noise problem. Their life is filled with so much mental clutter that they can't even hear their own thoughts. They're so busy reacting to everything that they never stop to ask, what do I actually want? You've got to understand focus is a weapon. When you know exactly what you're building and you give it your full attention, you become unstoppable. But when your energy is scattered across 10 different things, you become average at all of them. Think about it like light. A regular light bulb lights up a room, but a laser, that same light, concentrated into one beam, can cut through steel. That's the power of focus. It turns you from busy into dangerous. And here's the thing, you can't focus deeply if you're constantly chasing new things. Every time you switch paths, you reset your progress. You throw away momentum. You start over from zero. And then you wonder why success always feels so far away. It's not far away, you just keep moving the finish line. People say to me all the time, Iman, how do I find my purpose? How do I know what to focus on? And the truth is, it doesn't even matter what you pick at first. What matters is that you commit. You pick one path and you go all in. Because clarity doesn't come before commitment, it comes after it. You don't find purpose by thinking. You find it by doing, again and again, until you master it. When I started my first agency, I wasn't certain it was the perfect business model, but I knew one thing: I had to commit. I had to make it work, so I put my head down and focused on nothing else for years. No plan B, no distractions, no shiny new ideas, just one mission, and because of that focus, I built something real. That's what people miss. They never go deep enough on anything to see results. Everyone wants fast results, but real results take time. Focus gives things time to compound. Every skill, every project, every habit compounds when you give it sustained attention. But if you're jumping from one thing to another every few weeks, you're breaking that compounding cycle over and over again. You're always starting over instead of stacking momentum. So here's what I want you to understand. You don't need more opportunities. You need fewer distractions. You don't need more goals. You need one mission. When you cut the noise, you give your mind space to think. You start hearing your intuition again. You start moving with clarity, and suddenly, things that used to feel chaotic begin to make sense. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop running in circles and start moving in a straight line, but cutting the noise requires courage. It means you'll have to walk away from things, maybe even people, that no longer serve you. It means deleting the apps that keep you addicted to comparison. It means being okay with missing out on trends. It means choosing depth over distraction. It also means saying no to things that look like opportunities but aren't aligned with your mission. And that's hard, because saying no feels like you're losing something. But what you're really doing is protecting your focus, and that's worth everything. Here's the paradox: when you focus on one thing, you actually move faster, because all your energy is flowing in one direction. Every action reinforces the next. Every small win builds momentum, and before you know it, you're miles ahead of everyone else who's still trying to juggle 10 things at once. It's not about how much you do, it's about how intensely you do it. If you want to build a business, then commit to that one business. Go all in. Learn every skill, understand every moving part, get obsessed. Don't quit after 3 months because it's hard. Of course it's hard. That's why it's worth it. Focus on becoming world class at one thing, and the world will reward you for it. Stop spreading yourself thin. Stop chasing every new opportunity that pops up in your feed. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. None of that noise matters. What matters is the work you do consistently on the one thing that actually moves you forward. Because when you cut the noise, your energy returns. Your clarity returns. Your results multiply. That's when you start living intentionally, not by accident, not by default, but by design. And that's the level most people will never reach, because they're too addicted to distraction. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want progress, but they also want stimulation. You can't have both. So decide right now: are you going to keep drowning in noise, or are you going to silence it and focus on what matters? Because once you focus, really focus, you'll realize something powerful. It's not that success was hard to reach. It was just buried under too much noise. Cut the noise, pick your mission, go all in. And don't stop until you win?